All right, for today's news on Nintendo Switch 2, we have a bunch of really big stories we want to get into. One of them dealing with a company in Marvelous who is releasing some of their games physically, fully physical on Nintendo Switch 2 and their thoughts behind all of that. We have some updates from Nintendo on the supported and unsupported apps and or backwards compatibility stuff with Nintendo Switch 2. Some of it good news, some of it strange news, some of it, well, we'll have to get into. We also have an update that deals with Nintendo adding more power to Switch 2 in the very near future. Oh man, I can't wait to get into this. So I got to remind you, today is the very, I double checked last night, the very last day to enter our Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart World Bundle giveaway. We're giving away 2 of them. Today is the last day to enter through the link down in the comment section or in the description. So I wish everyone luck. We are done taking entries at 11:59 p.m. Central Time tonight. So this is your last chance to get in on that giveaway. It's not your last chance to win a Switch 2 here, however. Next week, Monday at 8 p.m. Central Time, we're going to be doing a live stream where you'll be able to go and enter to win one more Mario Kart World Bundle. That'll be given away at the very end of that stream. You do have to be there live to win. And then we obviously are not going to stop giveaways there, because why would we? We're going to switch it up a bit, though. On launch day, on June 5th, we're going to be going live at 8 a.m. instead of p.m. And when we do that, we're going to be giving away throughout that live stream 2 Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controllers. And yeah, those Pro controllers might even work with Switch 1. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. That being said, let's go ahead and dive into the news. And the first one here comes from Wario64. It actually comes from an interview at RPG Site where it says, Marvelous USA CEO on physical versus key cards. Let's just read the quotes. So it says, here's the question. Both Story of Seasons, Grand Bazaar, and Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma are getting full physical releases without game keycards or a code-in-a-box editions. I know many folks who are buying Rune Factory and Cyberpunk 2077 as their only retail releases next month on Switch 2. How has it been for the team to see the positive response to these physical releases in sea of game keycards? Ken Berry. It has been very rewarding to see our titles mentioned as games that fans intend to purchase on Nintendo Switch 2, since they know we went from the full ROM game cards. It was not an easy decision, and it had to be made many months ago when things were very uncertain and we were still learning about how game keycards option worked. But the more we found out about it, the more I thought our fans would much prefer the ROM option. That's the full physical game option. There were many discussions with Marvelous Japan on how the ROM option would enable the Nintendo Switch 2 enhanced designation that would allow the game to be played on both the new Switch 2 as well as the original Switch hardware. And we finally had agreement that this was the most user-friendly option. From there, it was a matter of making the numbers work, and having the $10 premium on our Switch 2 version allowed us to do it without being fiscally irresponsible. There's the first time we're hearing about maybe people deciding to go full physical, but doing a $10 sort of Switch 2 tax. We had this on Switch 1 as well. So it says, RPG Site says, Damon Ex Machina Titan Sion is also getting a proper physical release in the West through Marvelous USA and Europe, while the Japanese version is a game keycard. This is a great sign for physical game enthusiasts in the West, and I'm wondering if we should expect every physical release on Switch 2 from you to be a proper cartridge release. Ken Berry. Because this title does not have an original Switch version, the decision-making process was quite different since there was no Switch 2 enhanced classification to worry about. We still wanted to go with the full ROM version in our Switch 2 release in the West, and thankfully the development team at Marvelous Japan obliged. And though I'd love to say all Switch 2 releases from us in the future will go the full ROM route, nothing is guaranteed. If our initial lineup sells well and we can make a clear association with its success being tied to being a ROM offering, then that will greatly help our cause in the future, but may still not make financial sense on smaller releases that have a price point under $50, such as an indie title being offered physically for $39.99 or less. And we'll link to Wario64's post and the RPG Site interview down below. What I want to note here is what we're seeing is, yeah, it is expensive, and a $10 tax could be the solution to get games fully physical on Switch 2. And if that's what it takes to get full physical games on Switch 2, I know I'm actually okay with the $10 tax. I don't like it. I wish it didn't have to exist, but I also recognize the cartridge medium is so damn expensive compared to discs, and it's only getting more expensive when you talk about 64 gigabyte cartridges, that I can completely understand having to pay a premium in order to have a full physical copy. And I'd rather have that than game key cards. That's what I want to be like. The alternative is game key cards. I'd rather have the full physical, and I hope these games do end up selling well for them, because it will likely, if it does sell well, make the Marvelous in Japan much more likely to do more and more physical copies versus game key cards. They're obviously experimenting because, the Daemon X Machina is a game key card in Japan, and it is obviously full physical here in the West. So they're experimenting to see if there's a big sales disparity. We'll see what happens. But what we don't have to see what happen is Mario Kart World. Well, we kind of do, because we don't get to play it officially till June 5th. But we have this article over on Nintendo Suit that says it seems that you can play courses in reverse in Mario Kart World, which is always cool. I like when they let you do stuff like this, because it really changes up the feel of a given course. Anyways, it appears that Mario Kart World will allow players to play various courses in reverse, something that wasn't possible in past entries. A reverse version of the Mario Bros. Circuit, the first course in Grand Prix, was spotted in one of the latest Japan-only commercials. And, it's a timestamp link there. We'll link to that as well. You can see the screenshot here. Compare its mini-map, right? It's mini-map here, to the mini-map from the actual Mario Bros. Circuit from Nintendo Treehouse Live footage. Oh, there you go. You can see it is mirrored. It is reversed. The loop over here is up here on this version. So that is basically driving the course in reverse, which is insane because we haven't really been able to do that before. But I like this because, again, it adds some variety to driving the same course. At the moment, it's unclear whether these reverse courses are part of the new reverse mode, similar to mirror mode, or something that could be accessed in Knockout Tour or Versus mode. Though we do know that routes, highways, and roads that connect two courses to each other can be played in the opposite direction depending on the tour in Knockout and how the user selects courses in Versus mode. What's interesting is that the Japanese commercial didn't have any UI elements from Knockout Tour, suggesting that a new reverse mode could very well be real. Some have speculated that reverse mode could be a replacement for mirror mode, which could be the case. What do you think? Let us know. Again, it probably is going to be a replacement for mirror mode if I had to guess, but it's one of those things we don't know, and we don't know if that's the only place in the game that you'll be able to play courses backwards, but I do like it. What I also like is what Nintendo is doing about people trying to fraudulently sell systems. We're not talking about people reselling systems on eBay, like selling pre-orders and all that. That already has some rules around it, and to be fair, most people that buy that stuff, they're not getting it till launch day or later anyways, probably later. So we actually want to focus on how people are obtaining systems early. We have talked yesterday about how retailers now have Switch 2s, and now today we're seeing reports of the games arriving and the accessories and everything else, and that's cool. Like, this stuff has to arrive. It's arriving a little bit sooner than I would expect. I kind of wish it was happening next week on Monday or Tuesday, but hey, you know what? It happens. And because this happens, systems are bound to get out in the wild and be sold on marketplaces. Now, if you guys remember, way back when Tears of the Kingdom leaked, it first popped up online being resold at a website called Mercari weeks before the game came out. One of those was bought, dumped online, and there you go. Tears of the Kingdom does now leak to the world. That's what Nintendo is trying to prevent here, and that's what this story is really cool, because instead of them going after the individuals selling it or going after the people buying it, which I don't think you should ever really do if they're spending money, hey, you shouldn't really go after the customer. They're going to just work with these websites to make it so they don't allow the listings in the first place. A very smart move. So Nintendo announces an initiative in Japan to fight fraudulent listings of Nintendo products on third-party merchant sites. So, Nintendo Company Ltd. has agreed to cooperate with 3 flea market site operators. Mercari, which again is also popular here in the US, the Line Yahoo Japan Corporation, they're a very popular marketplace in Japan, and the Rakuten Group, which for me, they're a place that does like affiliate links for like Best Buy and stuff, but in Japan, they actually own a flea market thing, so it's important to include them in this. And it says hereinafter referred as the 3 service providers in an effort to prevent fraudulent listings of Nintendo-related products, including the Switch 2, which will be released on June 5th, 2025. Nintendo and the three services will take measures to combat fraudulent listings of Nintendo products, including the Switch 2, that violate their respective terms of use, including by having service providers proactively remove listings and by establishing a collaborative system for sharing information. Of course, the question is just what Nintendo considers fraudulent listings of Nintendo-related products. We hope that means resellers and online merchants who are peddling bootlegs and knockoffs, but that's unclear. What we do know is that the retailers above will be yanking listings that let customers purchase Switch 2 pre-orders. Once the Switch 2 actually launches, listings that sell the system will be permitted. So there you go. It is one of those things that is just really, really good to see Nintendo. Instead of going after the seller and then going after the buyer, they're just going to go to the websites in which this stuff is sold through and be like, no, we're not letting this stuff leak out early. We're hopefully, they hope that it's going to include getting rid of bootleg copies, but bottom line is Nintendo's trying to prevent leaks, and I think that this is a good move. Obviously, this is applying to Japan and was announced by Nintendo Japan officially, but I would like to see this maybe leak over a bit into the U.S. and other territories. Hopefully, it has and just hasn't really been announced. Like the Mercari thing, as I said, if they're working directly with Nintendo Japan, Mercari is kind of an international company like that, so I would like to see maybe that happen, and I haven't seen any Switch 2 listings on Mercari here in the U.S., at least not yet. So it's possible it's already in the works where they're taking down all those listings, because we've already seen, obviously, pre-order listings up on eBay. Why would the pre-orders even be listed on Mercari? Well, maybe because they're working directly with Nintendo. So I like this. Any way to combat scalping and make things, just easier for legit consumers to get their hands on without things leaking, I like. Now, what Nintendo also did today is they shared a video detailing the N64 features for Switch Online. And that's kind of interesting because N64 has been around, but they're adding some new features. So Nintendo released a new video detailing some of the planned features for the N64 app on the Switch Online. As shared by Today News, the video showcases 3 core features for N64 games on Switch Online. These are new features, including the ability to rewind, which is exclusive to Switch 2, the new CRT filter, which is also exclusive to Switch 2, and then viewing and remapping controls, which is going to be available on all Switches. The CRT filter in particular actually looks pretty cool and surprisingly aesthetic. So we're going to go ahead and watch this, but we're going to turn on the volume here for you guys so you can actually hear everything going on. So here we go. Let's rewind this and watch it together. Birdie. All right, so you can see the features there. Obviously, some that are Switch 2 exclusive, with the view stuff being, on all systems. The view and change controls, that is. Look, I don't know that I buy the CRT filter really being that big of a deal just from like a personal perspective, but I do think that it's still really cool to have these features get added. I saw some backlash on the rewind feature being like, oh, this makes games easier. You technically have been able to kind of do this the whole time on NSO, because NSO allows this thing called save states, which basically save the game anywhere you want. So if you fail, you can just go back to a prior save state and redo it. People do this in emulation all the time, so the rewind feature just kind of makes it more convenient to not have to like back out of the game and then reload in your save state. You can just kind of load it on the fly. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's also optional. Honestly, I think that these are just good features. The CRT filters, I'm gonna have to see on my own TV. I know it looks fine here, but a lot of CRT filters are they're not that great, especially if you go and actually play the game on the original CRT TVs. You'll see that it's not really that great, but You know, some people like it. It gives a little nostalgia blast, so I get it. You know what doesn't give a nostalgia blast? Nintendo updating a backwards compatibility list. This is something I've seen getting some flack today, and I think there's some interesting angles here. So Nintendo updates its Switch 2 backwards compatibility list. This is not new, by the way. They released this backwards compatibility list way back at the beginning of April, but they've now updated it. So this is good news. The update's good news, but it's drawing attention to things that people forgot about. So Nintendo has updated the list of its Switch 1 games that would be compatible with Switch 2. And with a bunch of games needing a free update to run on the new console. Titles such as Doom Eternal, Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist, Gal Guardians Demon Purge, and Pizza Tower now have a note next to them saying compatibility is planned to be resolved via an update. So that means those developers are going to release a downloadable update for those games for Switch 2. Prior to this update, only Fitness Boxing was confirmed to be getting an update, which Nintendo does publish in some territories, so it makes some sense. Now, well over 40 games have planned fixes due to either by the console's launch or shortly after, and you can have a look at the full list of games on Nintendo's website. Again, this is good news. This is a good news report, but people are twisting it into the negative because of some other things going on. There are still some fairly noticeable titles with issues such as Alien Isolation, Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition, Harvestella, and Overcooked All You Can Eat, plus a handful of new games that have been added to the startup issue list. Hopefully, we'll get more news on that soon. Along with these new updates, Nintendo has confirmed that a number of apps that are available on Switch 1 won't work on the Switch 2. These include Nico Nika, Abima, Hulu, Crunchyroll, and Inky Pen. We don't know if Switch 2 is getting these apps down the line or if it's getting additional streaming apps, so we'll have to wait and see. We keep updating. Now, I heard YouTube was included on this, so I feel like we need to go look at this list ourselves and just see if this is true, see if there's any issues. So these are the ones that are planned to be updated, or a Switch 2 version is planned. Like I saw someone in a video today bring up that, Fortnite's not going to work on Switch 2. We already had it announced that Fortnite was getting a Switch 2 version, and it's going to be there on day one. Like, they confirmed that a long time ago. But these are all ones that are planned to be resolved. So these aren't the ones that we're actually worried about. Let me go back here and open up the right part of the website. We want to see the full list, the updated list here. Here's where we want to be. So when we go in here and we look at this list, there are things that we want to look up. Like the YouTube app is the one I want to look up here. So let's go ahead and look up YouTube and see. And that's not popping up with anything. YouTube is not popping up. So it's possible that it still is a problem, that YouTube might not be supported on day one. There have been reports out there that Nintendo is working on a update with Google to kind of give them the options of what they can do to update the application, or if they want to make a new one for Switch 2. Probably won't be ready day one if that is indeed true. Again, I've been trying to verify the YouTube thing, and I just see sites reporting on it, but I can't see it really listed on Nintendo's website. So take that for what it is. But we have to get into another piece of news that is just legitimately negative, at least if it works the way that we think it works. And this isn't actually new for Capcom, because they do this on other people's systems as well. And that's unfortunate. So I want to be clear, this is not a game keycard problem. This is a Capcom problem. Street Fighter 6 somehow combines game keycard and code in a box on Switch 2. Again, they do this on other platforms, so I want to be clear, this isn't new. It's a Capcom issue, but Street Fighter 6 is one of the key launch titles for Switch 2, releasing on day one on June 5th. Digitally, you can pick it up for the bog standard $34.99, what's that, euros, pounds there, and Years 1 and 2 Fighters Edition for $49.99. Meanwhile, a physical release is being lined up for the latter option, also priced at $49.99. Now, we already know that it would be a game keycard release, but according to recent reports, it might also include a code in a box for the additional DLC. As highlighted by Genki JPN on social media, the game's additional fighter packs will be included as a DLC code that will expire after 2 years. So if you happen to pick up a copy in 2027 and beyond, chances are it won't come with the additional content at all. We'd expect the price of the game to be lowered when such an eventuality occurs, but still, that sucks. And yeah, all the information is coming from the box itself. We've seen DLC included as codes in physical games plenty of times before. Again, Capcom has literally done this on other platforms, but for goodness sake, if we're downloading the full game from the eShop via the game keycard anyway, why not just include the extra content as standard? Where's the logic? It's a frustrating situation for collectors and physical enthusiasts. Imagine owning a copy of Street Fighter 6 with that awesome updated artwork of Elena, Terry, Akuma, and more, and they're just not there. Very bizarre. It's recently also been confirmed that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remaster will also be a game keycard release when it launches on Switch 2 later this year. It is a physical copy on Switch 1. At the time of writing, only Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition and titles from Marvelous are confirmed to contain full games on cartridge. And to be clear, we don't know if it's a single-use DLC code or if it's going to end up being a multi-use code. How Capcom has done this on other platforms is it's always been a single-use code tied to your account. So I think it's safe to assume that it's going to be a single-use code. I'm probably going to have to pick out I'm thinking about it right now. I'm probably gonna have to pick the game out for myself to test it for you guys to see if it's a single use code. I presume that it is, because that's how it works on all the other platforms. But yeah, I don't know. Let's get into some more positive news. Nintendo gave us new footage on the Nintendo Today app of another P-Switch course in the open world of Mario Kart World. Let's go take a look at it, and let's just watch it with the full volume cranked. So I like the little achievement thing that pops up over there, the Monty Mole thing. Look, obviously that's a really, really simple one. And some of them are going to be easier than others because they're just kind of teaching you the basics of the new mechanics. Some are going to be much more complicated. We've already seen some longer, more complicated courses like avoiding all the cows and stuff. So look, I honestly think there's going to be a lot of variation in this stuff when we get there. But we don't know 100% until we are there. What we can talk about, though, is Nintendo doing something they also did during the Nintendo Switch era and seemingly do it again. So a person who has been in the know with game development and Nintendo for going back decades at this point, back to the NeoGAF days, if you guys remember when that used to be the go-to forum for everything, has come out to state and confirm that Nintendo is looking to reduce their operating system resource allocation, which is going to allow games that just have more available to it to use in the future. So right now, the current reports out there have the operating system using 3 gigabytes of the available 12 gigabytes of RAM, and the operating system using, well, 2 of the 8 CPU cores, leaving 6 for games. But it looks like Nintendo is going to try really, really hard to reduce it to 1 CPU core and 2 gigs, which is extremely similar to what Switch 1 was like. They're just still working on those optimizations, likely for things like game chat. So as we go in here, it says Nintendo's looking to further reduce the operating system resource allocation on Switch 2. Some improvements already happened now compared to previous SDK iterations. So some of these improvements are already there, even if they weren't there like day one on the launch models. So I've heard the goal is to get it down to 2 gigabytes in 1 core, but no idea when or if that will be accomplished. More resources have been released since the early dev environment, though, and I expect that to continue. And we can see the source comes over at Family Boards, and it's this Matt Ginn guy who, again, has talked for decades about stuff behind the scenes with the dev portals and everything, and been right along the way. So the guy seems to really be in the know. I would significantly trust this information. We can still call it a rumor, of course, because we can't verify it. But I would presume that Nintendo's going to keep optimizing the hell out of their operating system with those new features and get it to a point where, yeah, the maximum amount of stuff is available to developers. I also talked in the past how over time, Nintendo unlocked new clock profiles in handheld and in docked mode after the system came out to enable developers to have even more power with Switch 1. I actually think that's going to end up happening again this time. I think there is the base ones they're launching with, and like a year from now, they'll unlock like new profiles. And then if they release versions with shrunken down die, like a V2 Switch 2 or a Switch 2 OLED, Switch 2 Lite, and they're using shrunken down dies, I can see Nintendo unlocking even a little bit more performance if they want, obviously keeping it within a safe measure for the original Switch 2 owners for heat dissipation reasons, right? We don't want people burning their hands. So I do think that is really, really cool. I do like that it appears Nintendo is trying to continue to optimize their platform, and that's nothing but great news for game developers and for consumers. And you might go, well, does this mean the system is rushed if they're still optimizing? No. Additional optimizations to operating systems always happen throughout every platform's life. That's just how things go. Like, this stuff doesn't get made overnight. It takes years and years of development and years of optimization to really get things to where you want to be. This isn't a situation like launching a new version of Windows and then there's just a crap load of issues because Windows didn't give enough time for that version to cook and solve those problems. They figured they'll just solve it after the fact. That's not what's happening with Nintendo's operating system. They're just trying to get the resource load down a little bit more to give developers that much more extra when they're developing games. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Rebel Jans from Nintendo Prime, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.